From Careco TV, one of the longest running outdoor programs on television today. Exploring the country and the coast in search of adventures. From the mountains of the great Northwest to the shores of the Atlantic Ocean. This is Americana Outdoors, presented by Garmin. This week on Americana Outdoors, we're tagging along with Major League Fishing pro Mike McClelland on a fishing trip at the famous Fayette County Reservoir, Texas. But first, let's join Wade Middleton on a cloudy, windy, cool mid-February day in South Texas on Choke Canyon Reservoir and see what baits he chooses based on today's fishing conditions in an effort to locate bass and trigger bites on what's known as a typically stingy lake at this time of the year. Well, it's no secret that during the springtime the weather's always changing. One day it's cold and then the next day it could be colder or it could be warmer. Because of that, largemouth bass are always changing their moods, what depth they may be at, what cover they relate to, as well as what baits might trigger a strike. Savvy anglers know how to use that knowledge to their advantage to help them locate fish and catch fish, while others may never figure that out.
I have fished this so many times, I've seen it all the way to the up there and all the way back out here. This lake really is affected by drought, and it's been a while since I've been down here, actually about 1 year. And we were fortunate, got a lot of rain late this summer and early fall, and it's kind of maintained. It looks gorgeous down here right now, but I know the history of this lake enough to know there's not a lot of fish in it. It's bigger than it's ever been, and there's not as many fish. But if this lake will hold water for a while, the potential is just amazing. Let them go. This lake is just full of hydrilla right now. Absolutely amazing. Prettiest I've seen it forever. You've got to fish what you can, which can be frustrating if the fish are behind you and you can't get to them. The good thing about it is in the future, eventually, that cover will die off. It will become accessible. You can get to it or the lake will come down a little bit. And when it does, it'll be some of the best fishing you've ever seen. Oh yeah, pretty fish right there. Well, I mean, that bait just fell right out of his mouth right there. Look at the dark colors on that thing. You know, there's so much hydrilla back here in this brush right now. Those marks may be from cormorants nailing him on the side. We'll let him go. You know, when you look right now what I'm dealing with on the electronics, whether it's the Panoptics, the traditional side clear, doesn't matter. It is just solid cedars mixed with some hydrilla out there. And I mean, when you see it, it's just everywhere. There's little cubby holes and places for a bass to hide. And so for me right now, what I'm trying to do is think in my mind what these fish should be doing with a upper 50 degrees water temperature and see what I can't catch, see what kind of bites that I can get. My other option is gonna be spend a lot of time out graphing and looking for bait along the old bank line, along some of these old main lake points and some old pond dams or something like that, and find a group of fish that's, you know, still really out deep and that hasn't moved up into this brush. Come here, buddy. You're a nice little choky chunk. Look at that. That's awesome. This is a high bluebird, high pressure day, which to me is one of the hardest days to fish. And I've always said choke after a north wind is a really tough lake. But I'm really excited and tickled with what I've seen. I mean, the lake, to me, we've had quite a few bites. Water quality just looks phenomenal. Spawn ought to be world class. Future might be pretty bright for old Choke Canyon here coming up pretty soon. Yes, right as it was falling, not a big guy. Thought he had him a big old red crawdad. Oh, look at that one there. He might be moving up the spawn. Boy, the hook just falls out today. They're just, you know, we had a big cold front last night. Temperatures got down to 39, and that's cold this time of the year for down here. And every fish that we've caught has barely been hooked, really hadn't ate it, hadn't taken it all the way down, and we've had a lot of fish just slap at it, which is, you know, kind of indicative of one of them high pressure days where they're not really committing to the bait. God, look how fat that big girl is. Ah, look at that big old fat girl right there. That's a nice choke chunk. Bye-bye, girl. Golly. Boy, that sucker hit it going so far towards me. I thought I had had me a 12-pounder. I hope she holds up. We can get back, and this guy here, he'll be a 12-pounder one of these days.
Well, as we close out today's fishing trip, Wade is already planning a return trip to Choke Canyon 3 days later. And you say, why is he coming back? Well, stay tuned to find out.
As people who love the outdoors, we know what we stand for. We stand for fish, wildlife, and conserving the places they call home. We stand for the traditions we inherited and that we must pass on. We stand for great gear, fair prices, expert service, and memorable experiences. At Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's, we stand together for you.
You sons of fishes. Ain't enough fish on this lake for 2 clubs.
Really? Well, we see plenty of fish live with Panoptics.
Yep. Dang, we should get Panoptics. Maybe we'll just take yours.
What's going on here? You boys have license?
Yes, sir.
Nope. There he is.
Oh, I got it.
Americana Outdoors, presented by Garmin, is brought to you by Garmin. Fight your fish, not your fish finder. Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Your adventure starts here. YAMAHA Marine. Reliability starts here. And by Ranger Boats. Still building legends one at a time. Welcome back to Americana Outdoors. Well, we watched Wade Middleton on the water at Choke Canyon under cool, windy conditions, trying to locate and catch fish. Now we fast forward 3 days to see where the weather has been warmer for 3 straight days and see how he'll decipher the puzzle to catch a few fish.
Come here, chunk. Well, he choked on it too. You know, every day's a little different when you come out fishing. You know, the lake's high. We've talked about that a lot. I feel like I'd be catching them way back in the bushes. I couldn't get anything done. Got one little bit of rat come out here where I knew there was a huge bed of hydrilla. Find hydrilla, there's generally bass. So sometimes you outsmart yourself. Big lizard. Golly. Keeping it real, mixing it up. This is a pretty good one right here. Look at it. Oh. Come here, buddy. Oh, yeah. Well, that's a fat one right there. Oh, look at how fat that fish's mouth is. Oh, barely hooked in there. And when you start throwing those soft plastic trick worms and stuff around out there, the old trick stick, that can be the end result. Oh, bye-bye, girl. You know, when you take those little trick sticks, any of the soft plastic stick baits, you know, I'll use a big offset hook like this. This is a Trocar 3/0 EWG right here, and you just basically rig the bait through it and off you go, and it'll fish great through any kind of cover. And when you're on a flooded lake, being able to get it through cover is all the difference in the world. There's actually a little channel in that bait that you can push that hook down in on the other side as well. I'm actually going on the opposite side today just to keep it even more weedless than you can. So you've got 2 options there to be able to use it. It also helps with your bait life. They've even got one that has a ring in the middle of it. So if you want to rig it wacky style, the ring's already, little circle's already included in it. It's just a pretty neat little feature. Regardless of which way you go, a lot of different colors, and you know, that style of bait, as we all know, has been proven catch a lot of fish. Yeah, they're all the same, just great 10, 11 inches, super healthy, super fat. Such a light bite when you're doing this kind of fishing. I mean, I'm throwing Sunline Sniper and 7'1" Johnny Morris Signature Series, the Platinum Series rod right here. And I'm hammering them high-speed reel when I hit them, get them under control in this brush. And you know, if these were 5 and 6 pounders, we'd have our absolute hands full, because these little 1.5 pound, 2 pounders, and sometimes smaller, I mean, they're strong and green. I don't even know if some of these fish have ever been hooked in their life as green and strong as they are. Oh, that's a good one there. That's a big one. Nope. Golly, I thought that was a 4 or 5 pounder. I don't want a 4 or 5 pounder in here. Just got whooped by a 10-incher. These fish are so green in here. Let's see how good our Sunline is. Get that guy out of that bush. The Choke is a lake that I've got a lot of history on, a lot of passion for. Kind of a love-hate relationship at times because of the water quality and the changes that it goes through, but I've always loved this lake. Really, some of my best memories are coming down here in its heyday, shooting shows, catching, you know, geez, 50 to 100 fish. I remember Clark's big, you know, fish weighed almost 13. Great tournament memories, and you know, we even did some of the old Texas-Oklahoma shootouts with the guys down here. But the lake went through some really, really hard times. No bass tournaments pretty much come down here anymore. The lake just really suffered for a good 10 years of low water level, poor water quality, and subsequently bad fishing. But a few years back it caught some rain, and now it's caught another big flood, and there's a lot of grass in it. The lake really looks good. You know, we've been able to catch a lot of fish, doing a lot of different things. The water clarity is phenomenal, best I've seen in a long time, and so hopefully it'll stay healthy. We'll get us a couple of good spawns. We keep some water in here, and that's one of the things about the lakes in South Texas. They go up and down like your bathtub, and when they go down for a long time, we get that growth, and when they come back up and hold water for a while, we get a bass fishing bonanza.
Up next, we'll follow pro Mike McClelland on a fishing trip at Fayette County Reservoir, Texas. He'll show you how to pick up the right bait for the right situation and maximize the use of your electronics. So don't go away.
Groundbreaking designs, unsurpassed quality, and unshakable confidence. Welcome to the Ranger Z500 and Z100 series. Leading the industry for over 50 years, these rigs are custom crafted and loaded with more features and advantages to deliver the ultimate ownership experience. The legendary Ranger Z series. Unleash next level performance.
YAMAHA Outboards. Reliability starts here.
YAMAHA's legendary reliability begins when you turn the key on your new outboard. Now, when you say yes to YAMAHA reliability, turn the key on even greater value. For a limited time, purchase a qualifying YAMAHA outboard up to 115 horsepower and get 5 years of warranty protection, plus up to $500 in dealer credit. And on qualifying 150 to 300 horsepowers, get 6 full years of warranty protection. So say yes to reliability and say yes to a great deal from YAMAHA.
Americana Outdoors, presented by Garmin, has been brought to you by Spro, Sports Professionals, ENGEL Coolers, rugged, durable, high-performance marine coolers, and by Big Bite Baits, designed to bring the big bite to your line. Welcome back to Americana Outdoors. It's a cloudy day in early February. We meet up with Major League Fishing pro Mike McClelland on Fayette County Reservoir in Texas, a well-known lake for catching great largemouth bass. Time of year is not a big factor when it comes to crankbait fishing. Almost every month of the year somewhere in the United States, you'll be able to catch fish on crankbaits. It's just a matter of the action you choose, how deep the fish are, what you want to be looking for when you're cranking.
You know, probably one of the coolest things about a crankbait to me is just simply the fact that you can catch fish in so many different situations. I mean, you can catch them up cranking the bank, you can catch them offshore. I mean, a crankbait's one of those tools that as long as you're getting the bait to the cover that you're fishing, you can catch them at about any depth you want to catch them at. Pretty nice little fish. He doesn't have the bait very good, but a pretty nice one. Not bad at all. Little Spro Rock Crawler 50 got it done. That's the Missouri craw color, and you know, it's just one of those deals. You've got to be aware of what's going on when you're throwing a crankbait. So many people make that mistake of just chunking it out, winding it back to the boat, and never putting any action or any variance in their retrieve. You know, probably one of the biggest things about being successful with a crankbait is making sure you're throwing the right bait for the type of cover you're throwing. You know, I mean, just for example, this Spro RK. I mean, we've got the new RK50, you've got the RK55, the original model, and then you've got the MD model. And a lot of it is the profile of the bait sometimes, and sometimes it's actually, you know, the depth that the bait goes, or you know, the action that the bait has. And all three of the baits are similar, but they all come into play in certain situations. Like the little 50, in my mind, sometimes when these fish get real heavily pressured, you want to step your profile down a little bit. So it's all about picking the right bait for the right situation. You know, probably for me, one of the most important things when I show up to a new body of water, I mean, anywhere in the country, is what I can accomplish with my Garmin units. One of the first things that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set up my depth shades. When you look at this map, it may look like confusion to you, but it's all about me understanding what depths I'm looking at. I generally use the same colors year after year, so I have a reference in my mind what every depth is. I generally go in 5-foot increments other than the first 1 to 3 foot. I always shade that in red, just because that to me is danger. Red means danger. And when I figure out a bite, when I go to a lake and I start catching them in 10 or 12 foot of water, I can look around that lake and I can duplicate that pattern or that type of offshore cover that I'm looking for throughout the course of the lake. Another real key to throwing a crankbait, especially if you're trying to cover multiple depth zones with a bait that's designed to dive, you know, 3 to 5 foot deep, is when you first start your retrieve, you can actually hold your rod tip up when you've got that bait up in shallower water. And as soon as you start feeling it lose contact with the bottom, you can just then take your rod down toward the surface of the water and you can get that extra foot or two of depth that you're looking for. There's one right there, that's a good one. You know, one of the biggest things about a crankbait fish is making sure that you don't put too much pressure on them. I mean, I can see that fish isn't hooked very good. I mean, I'm gonna run a fairly light drag all the time when I'm fighting a fish on a crankbait, even to the point where if that fish wants to run, I can just pull line a little bit. You can see right now I'm just feeding that fish some line. Generally, if you don't rush a fish on a crankbait, you're not gonna lose them very often. But when you let them jump, that's usually when they get you. Now that isn't a giant, but that is a Texas bass. Man, I love to catch them on a rock crawler. Get some more.
Well, coming up, there's still a lot more fishing techniques to learn from Major League Fishing pro Mike McClelland. Stay tuned.
Secrets are created to protect information, but keeping a secret is not as easy as it seems. For over a decade, anglers across the nation have used Secret Lures tackle to reel in their catch. From small ponds to large bodies of water and tour-level events, the secret to their success has been tied to the end of their line all along. They've been using Secret Lures. First you've heard of them? Maybe your fishing buddies aren't really your buddies. Visit secretlures.com and place your order today.
We demand a lot from the products that we use on our adventures around the world. When it comes to keeping things seriously cold, we rely on ENGEL Coolers, who have for over 50 years kept things cold. ENGEL Coolers, the original high-performance cooler.
I got my power pole down, stuck in the mud in the bottom of the lake, sitting so still in the wind and the waves, could even be a hurricane. I got my power pole down,
Americana Outdoors, presented by Garmin, has been brought to you by Sunline, the strength to guarantee your confidence. Sawyer Products, Sawyer, we keep you outdoors. And by Yamaha's proven off-road ATV and side-by-side vehicles. Welcome back to Americana Outdoors. We're fishing with Major League Fishing pro Mike McClelland on Fayette County Reservoir, Texas.
You know, probably one of the biggest things that anytime I'm throwing a crankbait, one of the biggest keys, it isn't necessarily the layout of the bank, it isn't necessarily, you know, the depth of the bank. It's normally always got to do with hard bottom. You know, there's all kinds of different things that you can be looking for. You know, you can fish things like we're fishing here, riprap of the dam. You can fish out off the end of a long point or just covering a depth zone with a particular crankbait. Go. It's another good one on that MD. You know, I talked about earlier the difference in, you know, the depth versus the body size. Earlier I caught a few on that little RK50, but I really felt like, you know, basically after, you know, seeing what some of these fish are feeding on, that I needed a little bit bigger body frame, and that's the reason I went to that MD55. Basically, I'm fishing the very same depth, but I'm able to get that bait down to that depth in a bigger profile. Good little fish. You know, there's a lot of things when you look at what all these electronics will do today that you just kind of, there's a fish right there. You kind of take it for granted. I mean, they're so good now that there's not a ton of stuff that you have to do. But there's one thing when it comes to setting up my sonar that I still want to do, and that is I typically always want to run my gain in manual. It's just one of those things that to me makes a huge difference. Nice one. So getting back to the electronics, I mean, I want to run it in manual, and the other thing I always want to do is I want to have my A-scope on. When you look at this unit right here, anything that you're seeing between this line and the beginning of the history is actually there. That is live sonar. Everything from here over is memory. So I always want my live scope or my A-scope running, and I always want to make sure I'm running my gain in manual. The reason I do that is when you get around to other boats, your unit will actually try to start adjusting itself down automatically because of the interference. If I'm running mine in manual, I know I'm going to see every target that I want to see in the water. That one right there. I mean, they have decided to eat. You know, probably the biggest thing about throwing a crankbait is the fact that you can catch fish literally from, you know, 0 to 20, 25 foot of water even now with all of the different variations of crankbaits we've got. I mean, the biggest thing you as an angler have got to do is make sure you're throwing the right crankbait for the right situation. I mean, when you're talking about catching them in 0 to 3 foot of water, you're going to be throwing a square bill of some kind. If you're talking about catching them in that mid-depth range, you've got to be throwing a bait that dives at that depth range. And when you get out to that, you know, ultra deep stuff, I mean, a bait like the Little John DD, the deepest diving DD, and now he's even got a deeper diving DD that, you know, will get 20, 22 foot deep. So, you know, you start talking about long line and guys catch fish on crankbaits 25 and 30 foot deep. So a crankbait will catch them at about any depth if you can get the bait to where the fish are living.
Wow, there are a lot of tips and techniques to take in from Wade Middleton and Mike McClelland. You can rewatch this episode or any other episodes at any time on AmericanaOutdoors.com. Oh, and remember, you can always find all of these fishing tackle you've seen in the show at BassPro.com and Cabela's.com.
It's a fish that's got something stuck in its mouth. Tried to eat a little too big of a brim. You tell me a fish won't eat a big old bait? That's about a 6-pounder right there.
Americana Outdoors is a Careco TV production.
Probably one of the #1 questions I get, what line do I use?
That's a big debate. On every tour out there, everybody's debating Which line?
I choose the simple side. My choice of line is Sunline.
One of my favorite lines to use is Sunline.
How all can you use it? Anywhere you want to. Anywhere there's water and bass, it's good. Walleye, catfish, trout, speckled trout, sharks.
There we go.
I don't say this unless I think it's true, but honestly, it's the best in the market.
Approximately 30,000 cases of Lyme disease happen each year in the United States. The main culprit, ticks. Stop and kill ticks in the outdoors with Sawyer's permethrin insect repellents. Sawyer, we keep you outdoors.
Here at Big Bite Baits, we've got a big line of different plastics, and you know, they're all a tool, so you want to have them with you all the time.
I made several checks in crowded areas flipping that right there. Just a 6-inch Big Bite creektail worm.
Here at Big Bite, we came out with 4 brand new colors this year. All 4 of these colors are going to be great fish catching baits. Definitely my #1 go-to bait that Big Bite has out right now is the Big Bite Battle Bug.
Big Bite is leading the way when it comes to innovation and colors.
Many said that we were just obsessed when we started, that there had to be an easier way to smoke food. As time passed, the Bradley family created a lineup of Bradley electric smokers that has made it easier for the novice or even expert chef to get perfect results every time they use it. Grab yourself a Bradley smoker and take your cooking to an all-new level.
Combining the best of old world craftsmanship with state-of-the-art technologies to bring fishermen everywhere a fishing rod that's feather light, extremely sensitive yet remarkably durable for any fishing condition or situation. Denali rods, tournament tested and tournament tough.
Hobie's Mirage Drive kayaks set the standard for fun on the water. Whether your passion is fishing, sailing, or recreational adventure, Hobie's got a kayak for you. Hobie's Mirage Drive mimics nature's proven designs for efficient and powerful propulsion and enhances your kayaking experience. Mirage Power, Mirage Performance, Mirage Drive. Hobie, enjoy the ride.